Hi friends, good morning. How's everyone doing on this beautiful July day? Today I'm going to be taking us on a garden tour of the Lancaster County Idea Gardens. We came here last year to take a look around and things are looking beautiful yet again this year. I think what I'll do is I'll try not to edit this video too heavily so you can get a true sense of the space. For me, the best part of coming to this garden is to really see how you can use a small space in a variety of ways to create all different kinds of gardens. So we're going to start here in the back corner. This garden is the Potager. The Potager garden and the raised bed garden are both fenced in. And I really love the Potager. I love the butterfly garden and the native garden, but there's something really exciting about mixing ornamentals and vegetables in the same area. And I was immediately taken with this plant right here. To me, it looks like a pincushion flower, but here's the tag. So I've never heard of that before. I'll have to Google it. And you can see here in the distance what we have to look forward to in terms of the butterfly garden and the native garden and the vegetable garden is far in the distance. But let's take a close look at all of these plants today. We're not in a rush, so we can really enjoy the time in this beautiful public garden. It's completely free to come here, open to the public, dawn to dusk. Here we have a gorgeous phlox. The cultivar here is called Ultraviolet. And so we're mixing all of these beautiful ornamentals, the phlox, the marigolds, and the bee balm with our edibles. Beans, eggplant, tomato, and I see some raspberries over there in the corner. And now look how cool this is. This is something I would like to do maybe in containers. We have a herbal tea garden here. So we've got spearmint, we've got German chamomile, lemon verbena. I'm trying to see where the lemon verbena is. Actually don't see it. And we have what they say is rose and lavender. And then mixed in there, we have peppers. Oh, there's the rose there in the corner. But you know, isn't this cool to see how you can just take a small area and create completely different gardens? I think that's why I really love coming here, is it's not overwhelming in terms of scale. It's very, very attainable. Over here, you're going to see some square foot gardening in the landscape. We also have square foot gardening in raised beds. But isn't this beautiful? In the back there with the coneflower and the verbena. Love seeing that Colliver's root right next to the Monarda. Down from that we have a beautiful Coreopsis. But then isn't this cool right next to that? We have some potatoes, some Stokes aster, some Brussels sprouts, and there's some pole beans growing on the fence. I mean, I just think this is so creative, so cool. I just love it. We've got some kale down here with some blanket flower. And it looks like we do have some petunias in the front. Some lettuce, some onions. The light purple flower there is some kind of speedwell. For the most part, everything here is labeled really well. So I feel like it's a great place to come, observe, learn, take notes, enjoy. I'm here on a Sunday morning, and I tell you what, there's almost never anyone here on Sunday morning if you're interested in coming. Here's another great way to just use a small space and create a cool garden. This is the Italian herb garden. So we've got our basil, oregano, parsley, sage, chives. It just goes to show you only need a small amount of space to create something really cool, unique, and that's just your own. Isn't that beautiful? I love that moment. Got some blackberries here. Lots of benches to sit in, but every time I come, the birds are sitting in them. I'm not sure what that bag is there. It looks like we might have a bag of compost laying around. And I like here how they have different berries mixed in with ornamentals. So they have this beautiful orange echinacea here with some cleome sprinkled around. The bees are already out and about this morning. But then right behind that, we have some gooseberries. Aren't they so fun? They look like lanterns. And then if I just back us up slowly, you see some more coneflower with some phlox. And we have some beets down below with some dianthus. Daylilies on both sides of this path, backed up by lamb's ear. We'll go into the raised bed garden eventually, but I think I want to continue on in the potager and then travel through the butterfly garden backwards, because I think the view of the butterfly garden backwards is actually really beautiful. So we've got a daylily in here. We have some goji berries, which I have goji berries in my garden, and I think I really regret planting those because they sucker really heavily. Then they get powdery mildew, and it's just very hard and time consuming to pick them. So I would say of all the things I've ever planted, goji berry is the one thing I regret planting. So we have some corn here mixed in with rudbeckia, more verbena, tomatoes. And I think this is just such a wonderful way to enjoy vegetable gardening and ornamental gardening at the same time. So let's go ahead and now head into the butterfly garden. So I'll show you it from this direction first, and before we leave I'll make sure I show you it from the front. But I think this is just so cool because you have this circle in the middle, you have pathways where you can walk all around the butterfly garden, and then you have lots of choices in terms of which way you want to turn. You can go through the arbor, you can actually go through that second island bed, there's another path in there, or you could go here to the right. And there's even a meandering path here through the orange and white area where they have a lot of milkweed. Now, were these gardens aligned with brick last year? I don't remember that, but maybe they were. So let's take a look here at the exterior garden. Everything is labeled in the butterfly garden, not only with the plant's name, but also telling you if it's a host plant for a certain butterfly. So that is really, really helpful. So we have the coneflower. We have a lot of goldenrods around, and none of those are in bloom yet because it's early July at the moment. Lots of milkweeds. Sunkiss, coreopsis. And so there's just a scanning view of this area. Most of the plants just repeat with some tropical milkweed in the distance. So this is the way that you would normally see the garden if you came. Let's explore this central island bed next, where you can walk through it if you like, and I really like that. I like the idea of having a garden where you have a more purposeful walkway around it, but then kind of a nice, small meandering path throughout. That's a really nice idea. A short catmint down here. I see some globe amaranth. sprinkled throughout this garden. I don't see a cultivar name on the globe amaranth, but it looks like some kind of orange globe amaranth. Blazing Star is just getting started. And this beautiful stand of Monarda is definitely a showstopper. Now let's take a look down here. Okay, so this is interesting. Tell me what you think about this. See this yellow flower here? Growing up, I always called this evening primrose. They're calling it sundrops. So I will have to check the botanical on evening primrose and see if I've been calling that the wrong plant my whole life. Common bone set. And we have some zinnias here. Cut and come again zinnia. Between us, I feel like cut and come again for our area, Pennsylvania, is not a good zinnia. It does tend to get powdery mildew quickly. The Queen series is better, but it will still get powdery mildew in due time. Ageratum down here, a dwarf ageratum. And we also have some bachelor's buttons. This is really nice with the blanket flower. And then some herbs. So it kind of goes blanket flower, mountain mint. Back there is rue. Here's a plant I'm not familiar with called pussy toes. Interesting. More blanket flower. It looks like they are surrounding the sunflowers with chicken wire to protect them. Tithonia just getting started. Tithonia will get really, really big as the summer's heat increases. Little blue stem grass. And then just lots and lots of different milkweeds all over this garden. It's a really, really beautiful space, isn't it? A great place to just sit and enjoy watching nature come to life. Now let's turn around and walk through the native gardens. So in terms of the natives that I'm speaking of here, we are in southeastern Pennsylvania. That's a zone 6B. I really love the native garden. Everything is labeled really well. And I think they are doing a really good job of keeping it, I guess you could say, almost looking purposeful by repeating the same natives over and over again. So it does have a prairie-like feel, but it still feels like an ornamental garden by the way it's laid out, and I really, really appreciate that. So let's take a walk through now. I'll try to stop every time I see a sign and share the plant name with you. There is lots and lots of water in this garden, lots of wood that's just left to decompose, lots of rocks, different kinds of mulches. So really trying to support as many bugs as possible. Lots of Amsonia and Baptisia. So that probably looked really, really beautiful in late May. Last time we were here, I was trying to find a tag for this plant and I couldn't, and I still don't see a tag for it. It looks like we have a tag there that's empty. So if you recognize this native plant to Pennsylvania, please do let us know, because isn't it beautiful? Here we have a beautiful Eryngium. This is a white Eryngium. It has leaves similar to a yucca. The botanical here is Eryngium yuccifolium. That's a really beautiful moment in the garden, isn't it? Just keeping it simple, white, pink, and yellow, but it has such great impact and really just so, so easy care. We'll have a lot of goldenrod in this garden in about a month and a half. I think we're going to be coming up on some white echinacea and also some purple Culliver's root. It looks like the cultivar here is called Fascination. really beautiful. You can see just kind of all the wood laying on the ground. Oh, look at this beautiful yarrow down here. Let's take a close look at this. It's labeled Rose and Violet Yarrow. The cultivars are New Vintage Rose and New Vintage Violet. That is really beautiful. So moving right along from that yarrow, it's getting really, really hot and humid here in Pennsylvania. The other day, I think it said it was 82 degrees, but it felt like 108. We're kind of getting into that season where you start sweating the minute you walk out the door, just from the humidity of it all. I've been cutting the grass at about 8:45 at night, just to kind of spare myself a little bit of sweating. Here's another nice bird bath. And if you look into the distance there, some really cool and interesting things to see. I think I missed showing you this last time. There is a dry creek bed coming off of this gutter to the barn. And this area is in the shade. This is another entrance that you can take that has a native honeysuckle growing up this handmade arbor. And there's a lot of heucheras in this garden. So it's nice to see some native plants for shade as well. Down below we have Stokes aster. This is a dwarf Stokes aster. It looks like the cultivar is Mel's Blue. This is a native plant that I keep trying to get my hands on, but I haven't been able to find it. And it's repeated a lot throughout the garden. It has these beautiful small purple flowers, and I notice that when I come here the bees are all over it. It's called downy skullcap. I think that's just really beautiful. And so here's a look back at where we were. We definitely need to go into the vegetable garden and the raised bed garden. They are looking especially fabulous this year. But let me take us to another entrance point. So if you were to visit here, and as I say, it's free to come, this is how you would see the garden when you first arrive. You would park over at the entrance, which I'll show you, and then you can choose to walk down this pathway here, which is where we were. And I think we walked down that pathway last year when we came. Or you could scoot around and walk down this pathway. And I think that's just really nice to give people lots of options, especially when we do have events here and there's a lot of people. It's really helpful to basically have a lot of different ways for people to walk through and interact with the gardens rather than kind of funneling everyone through one main walkway. Some more blazing star here. Oh, I think I found a tag for that white flower. Let's see. Oh, slender mountain mint. Now I feel kind of embarrassed that I didn't know that. Learning something new every day, aren't we? Here's another great mint. This is hoary mountain mint. And it has this great dusty silver foliage. You can see lots of activity on the hoary mountain mint. So let's head into the vegetable garden now. In essence, there are two vegetable gardens. We have this one, which is more of an in-ground vegetable garden. And then we have a raised bed garden, which we will go there next. All of these gardens are gated. So right here in the center, we have a spiraling herb garden planted with chives, thyme, tarragon, rosemary, sage, parsley. But I think here it's more about just sharing cool and creative ideas for how you might plant an herb garden differently than just in a straight row. And here we have a garden called the keyhole bed. And there's some compost going on in the central portion of this bed that's planted with zucchini, mince, peppers, and eggplant. And then you have your compost pile right at the center there. Along the exterior of the garden, it's kind of going vegetable by vegetable. So we have the pepper garden interplanted with petunias and marigolds. That bed bleeds into the allium garden, where we have scallions and onions, chives, and we're doing companion planting here with the marigolds and also the carrots. This one tag here says that carrots and onions should be grown together. The onions will repel the carrot fly and aphids. The carrots in turn will repel the onion root maggot fly. Another nice place to sit here, and then that leads into our tomato garden. We've got a patio tomato, a beef steak, lots of nice different caging options. So rather than showing just the same cage over and over, we're showing different ways you can go ahead and support your tomato plants. In the corner, we have some ornamentals with the Heliopsis, the Echinacea, phlox, and even some herbs down below, such as rosemary and thyme being planted along with these tomatoes. And then in this corner, we have the cold crops. So you can see that the lettuce has started to bolt. And we have some things like Swiss chard and some beautiful kale and cabbage interplanted with pansies. I'm not exactly sure what the garden is right in front of the cold crop bed. It seems to me like it might be a bit of a cutting garden, but there's some sweet woodruff down below, some borage, and some snapdragons, and also some nasturtiums. So that's a look at the in-ground vegetable garden. Now let's head over to the raised beds. So we're back where we started in the potager. The potager leads into the raised bed garden, where we're showcasing lots of different types of raised beds, lots of different ways to use them. There's at least 16 different beds in this area, made of different materials, some with cover crops, some square foot gardening, some trellising. It seems like this cattle panel trellis has become really popular the last few years. So I can show you some highlights from this garden. In this bed, we're trialing different varieties of lavender to see which performs best in southeastern Pennsylvania. Right next to that, we have our blueberry bed. And we're trialing different blueberry varieties. In this bed, we're using a cover crop as mulch. This is buckwheat. Right next to that, we're doing some square foot gardening with cool season vegetables. So we've got the onions, the Swiss chard, peas, spinaches, and cabbage in the distance. The two beds with covers on them are mushroom trials. You have a nice place to sit here next to the bee balm on one side and comfrey on the other. Up this trellis, I believe we're growing butternut squash. Let me see here, that's correct. And it's a really, really beautiful view right here. I'm backed up to the bench, so you can see through this trellis to the potager. You can even see that nice dining set there in the distance. You're really able to see almost all of the gardens from this bench here. So definitely grab a cup of coffee and come on down and enjoy seeing these gardens for free in person. Here's some more square foot gardening. This one, we're focusing on vegetables that want full sun and good companions for them. So we've got marigolds with bush beans, peppers, once again showing all different kinds of trellising, or caging rather. Some borage there, I love borage, with tomatoes, more marigolds. And so you can see we have some triangular cages, square cages, just really trialing what works best in our area. This is a low raised beds where we have perennials in the vegetable garden. So we've got the sage and the rhubarb. This next bed is fun, and the tag literally says a sunflower bed just for fun and for the birds and the bees. I think that's really nice. Another square foot garden here where we have sunny veggies with more companion plants. So we have the nasturtiums with some dill and some eggplant. The flea beetle is a really big problem in our area in terms of growing eggplant and not having any damage to the plant. And so that's a full look at the raised bed garden. Lots of great ideas, and definitely take a seat on that bench if you come so you can see that great view. So friends, I think I'm going to wrap up the tour here for the day. There's lots more gardens to see, and I just wanted to show you when you come, you'll come up this long lane, and it can be a little bit confusing, but continue down that long lane. Do you see the kind of house there with the wheelchair sign? You're going to turn right there and park in the grass, and then you would continue on past this white Jeep, and behind the barn is where those Idea Gardens are located. But for now, friends, I'm heading over to the flower trial, so I want to wish you a wonderful day. Hope you enjoyed this stroll through the Idea Gardens, and I'll see y'all sometime soon. Bye, friends.